All right, we're ready to roll. Okay, well, first off, thank you so much for giving us your time. I mean, you're very busy, so we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, then we just have a few questions, and sorry I didn't have the opportunity to email them to you ahead of time, so if you have to take a few seconds to, like, think of a response. Oh, just kidding, I did email them. Perfect. All right. Okay, so let's just... All right, let's just make the volume... How do you change the volume? Just so it's loud enough.
Yeah, I can do that. Why don't you just get started?
All right. 1 second, we're just going to make sure the volume's good for the recording.
Okay. And I think it should be fine just as long as it's on here.
Okay.
We'll be okay. Turn up your volume and it'll do the trick.
Not bad.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Oh, guys, before you get started, in my office, I'm getting feedback. All right.
You good?
I'm still getting feedback.
Okay.
That's okay. I can work over it. In my office, I have a really loud fan. So
Yeah.
if you guys can hear me, I have a headset and microphone that would also work in case it becomes distorted.
We're pretty good right now, so we'll let you know if it becomes a problem.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so let's just kind of start with the first one. So can you give us a brief overview of the work that the Wisconsin Library Association has done in regards to privacy, or kind of the background with privacy?
Okay. The Wisconsin Library Association has worked with the American Library Association, and we're lucky that them being in Chicago, we're very, very close. And they have a program called Choose Privacy Week, and we have kind of piggybacked on that, and many of our libraries in the Wisconsin Library Association have programs and displays about Choose Privacy. They have some legislation that comes up, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act from 1986. We're working on some reform with that, which will limit the amount of access the government to our emails and to documents and information in the cloud. So WLA is kind of working with that, and so there's advocacy, there's legislation. Yeah, those are the two big ones.
All right. Okay, so how has the Freedom of Information Act impacted the WLA? Or like what sort of like, I guess, issues have you run into with that? Or has there been kind of overlap?
Well, the Freedom of Information Act, the thing to remember is that most libraries, and while we're very pro-freedom and pro-liberty, are still government agencies. So my answer to this question is kind of different from what you would think it would be. We're on the other end of the Freedom of Information Act because the public can request information of us about how our inner workings are. One of the aspects of the Freedom of Information Act is the open records request. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes.
Okay. So there is, I have it up here real quick. There's the Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council, and they help work with the public on how to interact with the government agencies and get the information they need. So, question from City Hall saying so-and-so has asked for every single email with this word in it. So I have to go through all of it. I can never delete any of my emails. I need to make sure that any emails that I have, and then I have to submit to those reports. So the same thing with the WLA is anybody at WLA can, most of the librarians are with government institutions if they're public or sometimes if they're academic. And through that, the training on it too. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. You can talk to this because you know more about this stuff. Thank you.
So how has the Patriot Act affected the WLA? Like with privacy and that sort of thing?
If at all.
The biggest thing is the gate rule. Anytime the Patriot Act is enforced and come to a library regarding any of the patrons' records and requests for those information, librarians can't do it. We tell our patrons that, hey, the government came and asked for your information.
Right.
We can't tell other employees. So if it was me when I was on the reference desk and I received this letter,
We'll just have her re-say this one.
and, you know, I could talk to my director, I could probably talk to an attorney about it, but I can't tell anybody that I work with, I can't tell my husband. It's, the gag rule is probably the #1 thing with the Patriot Act regarding that, so.
Sorry,
Yeah.
there was kind of an issue with the connection there. Can you just re-say that last part again? Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's hard to know how far back to go.
You were kind of
Just go over
Go
the
ahead.
gag rule things again, please.
Okay. So if I'm at the reference desk
yes.
and we receive a national security letter saying that they need information about what this person has checked out or when they access the library's internet, I can speak with my director, I can speak with the library board, I can speak with an attorney, but I can't tell my husband, I can't tell other librarians, I can't go to support to the WLA for it. WLA is a wonderful organization for, hey, I have a question about how to handle this. Hey, we're doing this challenge. You know, hey, how do I talk to my board about getting, you know, overnight lock-ins for my team? But I can't talk to them about national security letters. And if you haven't been trained on it, if you don't know what they are, you know, you might not know that, yeah, you can talk to an attorney about it. The Patriot Act, yes, we have to submit the record, but it doesn't have to be instantaneously. So if an officer comes to me with this national security letter that's been signed by a court, by a judge, but it's not a subpoena, and I have to give up these records, it doesn't mean that I'll do it right now, right away. I have to look up the records, print them out, and hand them over in the next 5 minutes. I can seek counsel through an attorney, but I can't, you know, call my friend Sarah who works downstairs and say, hey, Sarah, have you ever gotten a national security letter before? Mm-hmm. That's part of the gag rule. And so one of the ways that I think it affects the WLA is that not enough people are trained on what to happen, you know, what their rights are. We did, as you guys know, through Emilio DeTuro, that we did a conference at WLA about knowing your rights.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that with the Patriot Act, you don't have to respond instantaneously.
Okay. So, kind of piggybacking off of that question, who would you say acts like the Freedom of Information Act and the Patriot Act affects the most?
I'm not sure how to answer this question. I think directors are probably the number one that affects, because they're going to get it from both sides. They're going to get the Freedom of the Information Act from patrons, wanting to know about staff emails or what's going on in the library, or, you know, and they're also going to hear from the Patriot Act if it comes to us. So if you get a security letter, someone needs to find out about things, the directors are probably going to be hit the hardest. Need to figure out what they're doing. So I would say directors are probably the biggest one.
Okay. And then segueing into the moral implications of surveillance, I guess this doesn't really relate much to your area of expertise, but what would you say those moral issues are?
I was doing a little bit of reading about privacy and surveillance, and one of the biggest pitfalls isn't so much on the person who's trying to protect their privacy, it's morally what happens when you have that information, the holder of the power, the holder of all that information. When we think of Big Brother and the government as having all this information, and a lot of times it's not always the government, it could be just or you know, organizations that collect that kind of information, marketing research. You know, even me. For instance, my knowledge of the West Bend library community and people And at any time, I can go into our catalog and I can look up a person's record, and I can say, hey, Ben, you have $30 of fines. What can I do with that amount of information? I could tell your parents. I could get you in trouble. I could deny you the right to books. Some of that power is legit. Some of that power is not. Would I be betraying your privacy? Would I be, you know, rightly not letting you check out more materials? So I think, now that's a very small example of what power can be. And, you know, in different ways, the library can abuse power. You know, when I get my hands on a Harry Potter book before anybody else, and I can tell you the ending.
Yeah.
But that's the moral implication that I see, is that I think it can be very detrimental to society, or
Okay.
people to have.
Okay, just a second.
Are you getting them, you say?
Yeah. It just needed to catch up.
Okay.
It was just kind of off for a few seconds.
Okay, so then,
Okay.
on the flip side of that argument, do you think that having this ability to look up files on people, do you think that's important to national security? Like, do you think we need the Patriot Act as for some of its uses? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And I don't, it is a complicated issue. And as I was just talking with my husband about this. We were watching a TV show, Game of Thrones, and we were talking about power and how sometimes sometimes people in power make deals with the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
Do we give up our liberty, or the Ben Franklin quote? Do you guys know the Benjamin Franklin quote?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you do?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So do we give up our liberty and our freedom in order to have national security? Well, on a day-to-day basis, I say no, not really. But September 10th, 2001, I probably wouldn't have mind giving up some of my liberty for all those people not to have died.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know all of the details and the behind-the-scenes things in order to make that judgment. It's very easy for me to say, no, I want all of my privacy, I want all of my liberty and all of my freedom. But I also don't know the Patriot Act, what good it's done, because I'm pretty sure that the FBI and the NSA and the CIA isn't going to tell me, the public person, what email they read that helped figure out some terrorist cell that saved on lives. You know, there's a lot of information that I don't know about. Am I okay letting them have that power? Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Personally, I don't feel a huge burden of the Patriot Act. I know as a librarian, I'm supposed to be anti-Patriot Act and, you know, all about liberty and freedom and very ACLU. And in a way I am, but I also feel really safe. So it's kind of a give and take there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Could you give us 1 second? We just have to fix
Of
that.
course.